Hello and welcome to Science Monitor. Through this program, we bring to you all the significant developments that are happening in India in the field of science, research, technology and innovation. I'm Smriti Rastogi with you. And with the COVID-19 crisis, we are trying our best to bring to you all the efforts that are being made by the different departments of the Government of India to minimize the impact of the pandemic. We have also been focusing on different kinds of technologies that are being developed by S&T Institutes of India to tackle the different aspects of COVID-19. In today's episode, we'll see how India is developing different products using UVC radiation to carry out rapid and better sanitization of infection-prone areas. But before that, we'll find out how the Department of Biotechnology, or DBT, is working to strengthen India in its fight against the novel coronavirus. To know all the important details, we are being joined by Dr. Renu Swaroop, who is the Secretary of the Department of Biotechnology. Ma'am, thank you so much for joining us. We welcome you to Science Monitor. Ma'am, as we all are aware that scientists are having a whole lot of responsibilities in the current scenario. They have to work for the prevention, for the diagnosis and also for the cure of COVID-19. So first of all, we would like to know how DBT is contributing to achieve all this, like in terms of diagnostics and treatment.
The Department of Biotechnology is totally engaged into finding solutions for COVID-19 to see how we find immediate and short-term solutions to mitigate the various challenges, healthcare challenges that we are finding with COVID. And as you rightly said, it is on the diagnostic front, on therapeutics and on vaccines. And for each of these, our scientists are working not only at being able to find solutions, but being able to get these deployed very quickly so that they can be made use of in the current scenario. For the diagnostic kits, we have a large number of efforts which are going on, both by the autonomous institutes of DBT, by the other research grants that we've supported under our research consortium, and many of the startups and Indian manufacturers who are now taking up the diagnostic development. Similarly, for the therapeutics area also, we are looking at different aspects of the drug development, looking at repurposing, looking at in silico screening, and also looking at the monoclonal antibodies and looking at that as an important therapy. Vaccines, of course, is our main priority, and we have many of our institutes who are involved in the vaccine development. And in this, we are not only working with our academic institutes, but the department is playing a very major role in working with the industries who are currently working on vaccine development. They are working either with their own technologies or with international collaboration to look at the technologies which are being developed globally, to see how we can bring those technologies to the country and also be part of the global trials for vaccines.
Ma'am, we often hear that vaccine for COVID-19 will take at least a year or more than that. So ma'am, when we are hoping to develop our own vaccine, and can't we accelerate this entire process?
See, you have to understand the whole process that goes into a vaccine development. And if you look at it traditionally, a vaccine development can range from anything from 10 years to 14 years if you have to get a vaccine. The whole discovery stage itself takes about 2 to 3 years. And then we need to do a complete in vitro assessment. You need to do the animal studies. You need to do the preclinical studies to be able to look at. So there are whole stages of phase 1 trial, phase 2 trial, phase 3 trials. It has to go through the whole aspect of toxicity studies, of the safety studies, the efficacy studies, immunity studies. So you have to look at the whole aspect of it. But in this particular case, if we are even talking about 12 months to 18 months, I think that's going to be a wonderful job that the scientists are going to do. And how are they giving with so much of confidence that they will do it? So what is it that they are speeding up in that? Basically, they're looking at some existing platforms which they have already worked for other vaccines and seeing how that platform can now be used for this new novel coronavirus. We have had SARS, and SARS earlier also we have looked at. There have been results which they have then tried to, at that point of time, look at developments. Platforms were already created. Scientists have done a good job when they looked at other vaccines that they had started preparing, whether it was for Zika or for Ebola. So the experience is already there. And based on that experience, the scientists are now trying to use that to coronavirus and look at this SARS-CoV-2 virus and see how we can develop a vaccine. There is also then a very important step, and that is a regulatory step. Now, in the regulatory step also, if you'll see now, this is not a challenge which is for India or this is a challenge for any part of the developed world. This is a global challenge. So what has been agreed is that globally we will all together come and find a solution to find a vaccine for coronavirus. So the advantage is that in this collaborative effort, there is a lot of acceleration which is anyway happening because knowledge which is being generated, collaborators are using existing platforms coming together. With this, we are shortening the process anyway. And then the regulatory aspects also, we are trying to see how we can, without compromising on any of the important steps of the safety and efficacy, etc., try to see how we can shorten that step and come up with rapid regulatory pathways. The WHO has developed certain master protocols. They are in the process of doing that. And I think all the countries are working towards seeing how we can do it so that we can very quickly come up with a solution.
Also, ma'am, do we have only one kind of novel coronavirus in India, or the virus has mutated and we have different types and strains of the virus?
It's very early to say that. Scientists have just started doing the sequencing of the virus strains. What you see is the various sequences which have been put out into the global database, which are a couple of thousands, which are coming from different countries. India has just started putting out the sequences because they've now looked at, the NIV had actually put out the sequences earlier, which they put out initially 2 and then another 7. And now we have the DBT institutes. In fact, just yesterday when the minister took a review, we've announced that we will very quickly do 1,000 genome sequencing of 1,000 genomes. CSIR is also doing a similar activity, with 500 they will be doing. So very soon, we should have a large number of sequences from India. Pan-India sequences will give us an idea as to whether the virus is different, strains different in terms of its virulence, in terms of the mutation. Right now, whatever data is coming, it's a little early. These are only early inferences, so I don't think we should really be able to draw any conclusion from that. And we'll have to wait for some time till we get some more data.
Ma'am, actually, we would also like to know that what happens to the vaccine if the virus mutates. In that case, we have to develop a totally different vaccine, or we'll be able to develop the vaccine quickly for the mutated virus.
The understanding of the virus is very important to give you the understanding for the stability of the vaccine. The initial data that has come out from the various sequencing reports do give us an indication that this will be, the vaccine which comes out will be a stable vaccine and should be able to provide the levels of immunity as they move on. But I think as we move along and as we move along the vaccine development, we will have a little more information. It's not that you have to go through the whole cycle again, but yes, they may have to be certain research aspects that they will have to look into it. But the current data gives us that level of confidence that the vaccines which are currently being developed, that is going to be something which will be stable. So at the moment, it's nothing that we are so worried about, and we should be able to take our research forward into development.
Also, ma'am, could you please tell us that which institutes are working in this particular area?
So, as I said, there are both academic institutes and industry. The industry is definitely in a more advanced stage because they are looking at some of their own existing platforms in collaboration with global players. And we have a number of industries. We have the Serum Institute, we have Bharat Biotech, we have Cadila, we have Biological E. Biological E is actually, initially it was teaming up with the MIT in the US, but they're also now working with the Indian Institute of Science, where there is some lead that they have, and they would collaborate together. In the academic institutes, the DBT institutes, we have the National Institute of Immunology, which is also now advanced in its stages of development. They're also looking at the Translational Health Sciences Institute is also working. ICGB, which is another very important institute, and they've actually been able to come up with a very advanced stage of the candidate for dengue vaccine, along with Sun Pharma. So they are also wanting to use that platform. The other important aspect is, one is developing the vaccine candidate itself, and other is developing the resources which are required for these vaccine development, be it the adjuvant development, be it vaccine evaluation platforms like animal models, etc. So many of our institutes like the NII, the THSTI, the Institute of Life Sciences in Bhubaneswar, the National Institute of Animal Biotechnology in Hyderabad, the ICGB, they're all engaged collectively to do vaccine development work and to provide platforms which can facilitate the vaccine development activities. In addition to this, there are other academic institutes across the country which are being supported by the Department of Science and Technology, by CSIR and others who have also started, but those are in an early stage right now, so we will not speak about it. We also have Genova as a company who's got forward to be able to take up vaccine development.
Well, absolutely, ma'am. We will continue our discussion with Dr. Renu Swaroop, but now it's time for a very quick break. Stay with us as we'll be back soon.
वो सामने वाली बिल्डिंग कुछ दिन पहले सील हो गई और तब से आस पड़ोस के लोगों की जिंदगी थोड़ी तब्दील हो गई। उसी बिल्डिंग के नीचे वाली दुकान से तो घर का सामान आता था और वो बीमारी के बारे में कुछ दिन पहले बता देते तो क्या जाता था। आज हम डरे हुए हैं, जीवित हैं पर मरे हुए हैं। आज लगता है कि काश कर दें सब कुछ ठीक इस दुनिया को करके रिवाइंड। But believe me, this is nothing but the collective karma of humankind. सलाम है उसको जो सड़कें साफ करता है, कचरा लेकर जाता है, घर का सामान लेकर आता है और फिर अपने घर जाता है। पर हमने उसको वो इज्जत दी ही नहीं। हम पैसे वाले हैं, हमारे बाप का क्या जाता है। और वो बेचारा डरता है कि कोरोना वायरस उसके परिवार को ना हो जाए, वो अपने बच्चे को छू नहीं पाता है। ये अमीर गरीब का इंसानियत से परे का नाता है। इस देश को गरीब ही चलाता था, गरीब ही चलाएगा। हमें समय भी सब सुविधाएं गरीब ही दिलाएगा। अब जब ये सब ठीक हो जाएगा ना, तो इन लोगों को इज्जत देना। कोई काम छोटा नहीं होता, ये बात अपने पल्ले बांध लेना। आज डॉक्टर, नर्सेस, पुलिस, हमारा सिक्योरिटी गार्ड है सबसे ज्यादा काम के। और मुझ जैसे बॉलीवुड हीरो हैं बस नाम के। हम बस पैसे दे सकते हैं, हथियार दे सकते हैं, पर लड़ना उनको है। उन्हीं को सब कुछ सहना है। हमको तो सिर्फ घर पे रहना है। हमको तो सिर्फ घर पे रहना है।
Welcome back to Science Monitor. Today we are joined by Dr. Renu Swaroop, Secretary, Department of Biotechnology. And we are talking about the COVID-19 crisis in the country and the efforts that are being made by the Department of Biotechnology to find and develop scientific solutions to the problem. Ma'am, we would also like to know about the national and international collaborations DBT is part of to find a solution to this problem.
It's all about collaboration. And this is something which we've been saying earlier as well, that science will always give the best results when it's done in a collaborative manner. And COVID-19 has actually been an experience which has shown us how scientists and countries have got together to collaborate to be able to deliver solutions, because we have a common goal. We have a common objective, and our objective is that we have to fight coronavirus. For this, we are looking at national and international collaborations, be these interinstitutional, interagency, interministerial, and as I said, inter-country collaboration. So we are working very, very closely amongst all ministries, amongst all departments, within the government here, with the private sector, with international organizations. We have collaborations with the NIH in the US, we have with the CEPI, which is the Coalition for Pandemic Preparedness, we have with WHO, and you also have read about many of the industries, their collaborations with many partners. So this is all about a collaborative effort, and we are seeing that collaboration between academia, industry, startups, MSMEs, the international groups all coming together.
And ma'am, what are the major challenges that the researchers are facing right now?
So the challenge with the scientists always have is that you're trying to find a solution very quickly. How does your science respond to that? And I think that really is a challenge. They have a very short time period to deliver something which the society is looking for. That is a huge challenge for the scientists because science has its own timelines. And sometimes, even if you try to accelerate those timelines, it's not possible because you have to give a defined period of time to that science experiment to happen. So I think that's a challenge. There's a huge lot of pressure on them. There's a huge lot of accountability on them. So the challenge for them is to be able to find the best solutions within the shortest period of time.
And how helpful is the experience of other countries? And how do we learn from their strategy and response?
So I will limit my response to the science aspects of it because the complete management of it, of course, the health ministry is doing very well. And as you've heard many places, which has been said that our country and our government has been able to take proactive steps. So that is a different matter. But from the science side, let me tell you that we are very, very well positioned. We've got a lot of strengths and we are trying to now make the best of these strengths. Our biggest strength is, which the minister had also announced yesterday, that we have made this as an opportunity for us to see that our Make in India really flourishes. For the kids, our Indian researchers, our Indian manufacturers are all geared up, and we have already committed by end of May, we will have complete indigenous kit development and production within the country. We will be able to not only develop the kits, but all the components and the reagents which go along with it. We're launching a platform of a consortium for bringing together all the biotech resources and indigenizing these. And I think that is something which is really going to be a big advantage, not only for making us self-reliant, but also for positioning ourselves. So in terms of our kits, in terms of our delivery for these kits for the testing which is being done, and also in terms of the other research, I think we are very, very well positioned. And the lesson that we learn from the other countries is really it's a collaboration. So when we work together, we see what the knowledge is, what the learnings are, and how can scientists come together to be able to find common solutions.
And ma'am, what according to you are the key takeaways for the S&T community in India? What have we learned from this crisis?
I think the key takeaway is that science today is coming into the forefront to be able to deliver, and also to be able to deliver solutions which will impact not just our country but to impact the whole world. That is one very important takeaway, that science has a very important role in being able to deliver solutions across, whether it's healthcare, whether it's agriculture, and in this particular case, in this crisis, it's the healthcare challenge, which science and technology is to really respond to. The second takeaway is what we said, it's all about collaboration. The more you collaborate, the better you are able to respond as a team. And I think that is a huge takeaway, that this is what we need to do to be able to respond very quickly. And the third is that we as a country have a lot of confidence in ourselves, in our scientists. And if there is the accountability, there is a crisis like this, our scientists are standing up to meet that challenge and to be able to deliver. So that, I think, is really the key takeaway for us.
Well, ma'am, thank you so much for joining us. But before we wrap up our conversation, what would you like to say to our viewers who are watching our show? Any special message for them?
So I think to the viewers, the main message is that, as has been said by the government time and again, every citizen has to play a very important role if we have to fight this war against corona. And as a country, if we have to fight this war, we have already protocols and SOPs given in terms of social distancing, in terms of masks, in terms of hygiene. That needs to be followed diligently. And the other message I have to give is that our scientists and our health workers are on the job to be able to see how they can find solutions to be able to help us to fight this particular war. And we are confident that our scientists will be able to find solutions.
Sure, ma'am. Our scientists are working diligently to develop a solution, and we are hopeful that we will overcome this crisis soon. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us with your insightful conversation with us. And we know that you had a very busy schedule, and instead of that, you spared time for us. We appreciate it highly. Thank you once again. Well, now it is time for another short break, but do stay with us. We will be back very soon.
कोरोना वायरस से बचाव को लेकर सबसे पहले हमें यह सोचना चाहिए कि इस वायरस को फैलने से कैसे रोका जाए और किस प्रकार स्थिति को नियंत्रण में रखा जाए। कोरोना वायरस के खिलाफ भले ही दवा नहीं है, लेकिन समय रहते ही इसके लक्षणों का पता चल जाए तो इलाज संभव है। क्या है लक्षण? तेज धड़कन, सिर दर्द, सांस लेने में तकलीफ होना, छींक आना, खांसी आना, बुखार, गंभीर मामलों निमोनिया व सांस लेने में बहुत ज्यादा मुश्किल होना। कोरोना वायरस से डरने की जरूरत नहीं है। इस वायरस को लेकर किसी प्रकार का भ्रम न फैलाएं। हालांकि सावधानी जरूर बरतें, क्योंकि यह वायरस एक से दूसरे में बीमारी फैलाती है। इसलिए अलर्ट रहें और बचाव पर ज्यादा ध्यान दें।
Welcome back. You are watching Science Monitor. Sanitization has become the key word to prevent the highly contagious infection of COVID-19. But regular, effective and quick sanitization is also becoming an issue, as it is not so easy to achieve. Now, to solve this, different institutes and industries are collaborating to develop new products based on the UVC radiation, which is known to damage the genetic material of the microorganisms. Let us see this in our special report to know more about such products.
As indicated by the studies, fomites or infected objects are a major source of COVID-19 infection. So it is very important to ensure clean surfaces at every place and at every level. But it is easier said than done. So Indian R&D institutes are working on different technologies to develop better methods of sanitization to fight COVID-19 effectively. Among them is the UVC technology, which can be very beneficial for rapid and effective sanitization of high-risk zones such as the hospitals. UVC or ultraviolet C is a form of UV radiation which falls within the band of 100 to 280 nanometer. Natural UVC emitted by the sun doesn't reach the Earth's surface as it is absorbed by the ozone layer. But ultraviolet rays of this wavelength have high energy and strong germicidal properties, so they can be used effectively against many pathogens, including the SARS-CoV-2 virus. UVC radiation cannot penetrate opaque solid objects. Therefore, it is also ideal for sanitizing different kinds of surfaces. Amid the COVID-19 crisis, hospitals have become high-risk zones and many health workers are falling prey to this highly contagious viral infection. To overcome this problem, the International Advanced Research Center for Powder Metallurgy and New Materials of the Department of Science and Technology, the University of Hyderabad and Makins Industries Limited have collaborated to develop a UVC radiation-based disinfection trolley for the hospitals. This trolley will help to fight against COVID-19 by sterilizing the hospitals rapidly. According to the researchers, chemical disinfectants are not very effective in highly contaminated areas such as the hospitals. But UVC radiation can be used effectively to inactivate the microorganisms present in the air as well as on the contaminated surfaces. As the virus causing COVID-19 is also sensitive to UVC, so these trolleys can be used for rapid sterilization of hospital premises and the other setup. The trolley has 6 UVC tubes in different directions to disinfect the walls, rooms, and the air. And 2 small tubes are installed at the bottom of the trolley to disinfect the floor. The hospital rooms get disinfected when the trolley is moved around in unoccupied rooms by an operator in protective suit and goggles. The system has been deployed at Employees State Insurance Corporation Hospital in Hyderabad for field trials.
We are very confident that this particular trolley will be very useful in getting the infected spaces quickly ready for the next patients and regular usage as well. Of course, the usage of UV light requires certain safety precautions to be taken. So this manual trolley will have to be operated by a properly dressed person with a suit and goggles. And in the next version of this trolley, we are planning automation so that human intervention can be avoided.
Similarly, IIT Guwahati, in collaboration with Bangalore-based Excel Tech, has developed a UVC LED system to sanitize virus-infected solid surfaces. The unique design of this UVC system ensures uniform UVC exposure in virus-infected non-porous area. The system is equipped with an object movement identification feature so that UVC exposure to human skin is avoided during the operation. The system is being designed to sanitize homes, hospital wards, buses, metros, and railway compartments. The team is also improving the design by integrating UVC with ozone system to adopt this technology to porous surfaces.
The UVC LED lights fitted in a MOB is energized by a rechargeable battery fitted in the MOB tube, and LED lights are fitted in the bottom of the MOB. And the MOB is designed to operate in its 4 axes. The system comes with 2 variants. The one variant is with IoT enabled solution. The another variant is without IoT enabled. It's a simple version, can be used for any household. The IoT enabled solution can give the certain benefits like it can cut off the UV when it is exposed to the human skin, and also it can provide features like if the operator is not operating properly, if the UV lights are not sufficient enough to kill the microorganism or COVID-19, so it can give the buzzer to stop it.
In another effort, scientists working at Imagineering Lab, IIT Kanpur, have developed a UV box to kill the germs by exposing them to a certain wavelength. The box can be used to sanitize daily use items such as the cell phones, laptops, and currency notes. According to the researchers, the box can also be used to sterilize vegetables, fruit, and food packets. The box has a timer, indicator, and a lot of safety features for effective and safe use of the device.
We have developed a UV kit or a UV box. This UV box, we have used a UVC light. So generally UVC light around about 264 nanometer has the highest efficiency in killing the germs. We hope this development is going to make a huge change.
The device developed by IIT Kanpur is portable and can also be used to sterilize masks and other surgical instruments used at the hospitals.
Well, that's all we have for you in today's edition of Science Monitor. Do tell us how you like our program. You can send your feedback and suggestions through email. Our email ID is news@vigyanprasar.gov.in. You can also write into us at Vigyan Prasar, 5th floor, Prithvi Bhavan, Lodhi Road, New Delhi, 110003. We will meet you again next week with new information and developments. Till then, stay safe and think scientifically.